What's up, everybody? It's Clint from the Die Hard MMA podcast for the undefeated UFC 270 post-weigh-in show. You have waited. It is way later than usual because of those ceremonial pay-per-view weigh-ins and face-offs, but we've made it. We're here. It's time for the best damn gambling show on the internet today. What we do, if this is your first time watching this show, is we take one final look at the fighters as they step on the scales and as they face off with one another. We try to get any little hint of information, how they size up, the attitude, the energy that they're bringing, whether or not we feel like they had a rough weight cut, and then we try to compress all that information to make some final bets to put some extra money in your pocket for these fights tomorrow. So let's go on through this awesome card. Unfortunately, we've lost two fights, two big ones too. They were good. I'm so upset that I don't get to watch Rodolfo Vieira TKO Wellington Turman. I'm very upset about that. And I'm also really bummed we don't get to see Ilia Topuria versus Air Jordan. That would have been one heck of a fun fight. But the rest of the card should be very entertaining. First fight of the night, Hanson takes on Jasmine Giustolisi. With both women coming in at 125 on the dot. Nothing to report for Hanson. She looked good to go. Jasmine on the other side, she looked really rough, if I'm being honest. She got on the scale. She looked extremely relieved when that weight got called. She's big. She is a big girl. And you see that when they face off. When these two women get face to face, there is a big size difference. Jasmine really relies on that bullying size and strength. But Kay was intense. She was not going anywhere when they faced off. She is not intimidated whatsoever by the size of her opponent. Now, what I did do is go ahead and throw a shot on Kay Hanson here in this spot. The rough look of Jasmine on the scales is something that makes me question where her cardio is going to be. We already know that she has sketchy cardio. We saw her gas out in the Dana White Contender Series fight. Her opponent just really wasn't able to take advantage of it. Kay is such a solid grappler that if Jasmine does start to tire in this fight, she's going to take over. We've seen her do that in the UFC already before against much more experienced level opponents. I think she can definitely handle Jasmine Giustolisi. She's just got to get out of round one. Now, when Kay comes in here, I'm looking for the inside the distance. I don't want to lay that minus 240 spot, so I'm going to take inside the distance at plus 275. I did also hit the submission prop because I think that's her most likely path to victory, and we sprinkled the round three at 14-1. So there's your first weigh-in read of the night. Next fight up is Silvana Gomez Juarez taking on Vanessa Demopoulos. Both women came in at 115.5. Silvana, sorry about that. Big smile, no issues. Vanessa Demopoulos, she looked messed up. She looked worn down, rapid blinking. But as soon as they called the weight, she gave a big smile and all was well with her. She was dancing around, did the splits, moved really well. So, I think she might have just been nervous. She looked like she had a really tough cut. And then all of a sudden, all that energy came flooding back as soon as she knew she made weight. So, I'm not sure if I should be worried about her here or not, if I'm being honest. When they got to the ceremonial weigh-ins, Vanessa went full-on stripper, man. She did the whole hair flip turner. I can't do it, obviously. I don't have any hair to work with. But she came out and did the damn thing. She earned a couple of new fans this evening. They face off, and I was a little bit surprised at how big Silvana is in this matchup. She is much taller, much longer. But Vanessa is thick girl. Holy crap, did that girl put some muscle on. This is going to be a really interesting fight. I have been leaning towards Vanessa basically all week. Still haven't bet it. Still probably not going to. I'm going to go ahead and pass at this point because I don't know what to make of this one, but it should be fun. Matt Frevola taking on Gianno Valdez. Both guys came in at 154.5. Matt Frevola was really pumped up on the scales today. He looked good. He looked thick, ready to rock. Valdez came in, and honestly, he looked focused. Fantastic on the scales. No issues whatsoever. When they faced off, this one was very friendly. Both guys having fun. Matt Frevola let his bro get up and flex on the stage or something for whatever reason. These guys size up really well. This is a fun spot. Nothing at the weigh-ins to concern you one way or the other. I've got the underdog. I like fading chins. Frevola has a weak chin, so I'm going to take my shot going ahead and going against that. Tony Gravely taking on Simone Oliveira. We've got Gravely coming in at 135.5. Oliveira made 136. Now, Tony Gravely came in and, boy, he ripped that mask off as soon as they called his weight, had a big old smile hiding under there. He's ready to go for this one. He looked really good physically speaking. No issues with Tony Gravely. Oliveira looked sucked out, let me tell you. Cheekbones popping, eyes were bloodshot and red. He looked bad this morning on the scales. He moved well enough, so he's new to the UFC. I haven't seen his weigh-ins before. I don't know how concerned I should be about that, but it makes me feel better having a Gravely ticket already in my back pocket. This was an intense stare down, let me tell you. Tony is thick up there. Holy crap, that guy's got so much muscle on his body. Oliveira is slim, but he's the taller of the two. The size difference isn't what I expected it to be. I thought Oliveira was going to be a decent bit taller than he actually is. So considering Tony Gravely's always the short, thick guy, he sized up pretty well in this case. I like my spot on Tony Gravely. I've got no problem with it. Had him parlayed with Rodolfo. That fight is off now, so I just have a big fat hammer on my guy, Tony Gravely. Jack Delam and Delana taking on Pete Rodriguez. Both guys made 170.5. Jack was jacked. He was in fantastic shape. Bouncing up and down on the scales, very relaxed, looked good up there. Pete on the other side, focused and crazy eyes. This man is intense, but he looked very good on the scales, and this was a great face-off. Jack is definitely the taller of the two fighters, but boy is Pete wide. When you get up there and you watch these two stand in front of each other toe-to-toe, the size of Pete's back is really the thing that stands out, and that's where all that power comes from. We talked about the soul-crushing power that Pete Rodriguez brings. It's from the back muscles that he has showing off. Both guys are extremely confident here in this spot. I haven't played this fight. I'm still very tempted on the under. I know it's at 1.5, but I have a hard time seeing this thing going over 1.5 because Jack's either going to get flatlined by Pete early, or I think Jack takes over and breaks Pete if he's not able to get that early KO. The only question I have is what Pete looks like when the fight gets extended. We've never seen it. We don't know. So I have a hard time betting the under simply because Pete could be one of these tank-style fighters that just never goes away, and maybe he takes a beating for 2 rounds and still has the power in round 3. You never know. So I'm a little sketched out on this one, not knowing what I'm getting into with a 4-0 professional fighter in Pete Rodriguez, but not a bad look if you want to take a flyer on somebody, because Pete's got that knockout power and they're giving you the kind of price that you would need to back the dog here. No bet for me as of now. Hani Barcelos taking on Victor Henry. Hani came in at 135 on the dot. Victor Henry needed that extra half pound, 135.5. Both guys, no issues whatsoever. Ronnie Barcelos has been around forever. Classic Barcelos on the scale today. Victor Henry threw up the horns, no problems there. Slight size advantage to Victor Henry. These guys faced off. It was very respectful, nothing crazy. They've both been around the park before. I like Hani Barcelos in this fight, but I don't really like how wide this line is. Victor Henry's one of these guys that has definitely been around. He's fought good caliber competition. He could be one of these floaters outside the UFC that maybe should have been here all along, and we just don't realize how good he is. So I don't feel like putting my money against a guy like that, although I do expect Hani Barcelos to come in here and get the job done. Michael Morales taking on Trevin Giles. Both guys came in at 170 on the dot. Michael Morales is built, let me tell you. Kid looks good. No issues, moving well. Trevin Giles came in shredded. It's his first fight at 170, but he nailed the cut. It was absolutely perfect. He looked great. Moved well, no problems with him, no limping, no rush to rehydrate. Like, I couldn't ask for a better debut at 170 as far as the scales go for Mr. Giles. Height advantage goes to Morales, but Giles is thicker. This is where you start to expect dropping the weight class might pay off just a little bit. This was a very calm face-off. Nothing going either way. I've got a big fat 3-unit bet on Trevin Giles. I beat the line move by a mile on this one. So I'm feeling good about my position on Trevin Giles. I've got the best number. I've got the more experienced fighter. And he looked great on the scales. I was worried I was going to have to, hedge or bail out if he came in looking like death. But he looked great. So I'm really looking forward to this fight and seeing if I can pull off another Dana White Contender Series fade tomorrow. Cody Stamann taking on Said Nurmagomedov. Cody came in at 135.5, Said 136, and Cody is jacked. One of the thickest fighters on the roster. I don't know how this guy puts that much muscle on a frame. He's got those running back thighs. Like, you wonder why the NFL has never called this guy. Said Nurmagomedov, though, he looked a little sickly, if I'm being honest. He looked a little pale and kind of green, hollow, dead eyes. I think this guy had a tough cut. I think he had a bit of a rough time getting down here. Stamann looked like an absolute brick at the face-offs, and very similarly to Tony Gravely, Stamann was not that much shorter. I kind of expected a bigger height difference, but it wasn't that bad. Said is definitely, longer, leaner. He's not as muscular because he uses the fast twitch muscle. He's a striker. He likes to throw spins. Cody Stamann is just an absolute unit, but he's not that much shorter. I don't know if he's going to be at the crazy disadvantage a lot of people are thinking, and I haven't bet Cody Stamann. A lot of people have been surprised all week that I haven't bet Cody Stamann because it seems like a live dog situation, just right up my alley. And I'm always kind of afraid that the way he grapples, he doesn't do any offense. He doesn't have any ground and pound. He doesn't attack submissions. It's all control time. So because of that, I'm a little nervous that he'll lose some kind of a split decision. But the longer I sit here and stare at it, the more I'm like, why am I not betting this? We know that Said Nurmagomedov has a weakness on the grappling. Cody Stamann's fought a higher level of competition in the UFC. He's been around forever. He's durable. He's never been knocked out before. So even though we're in the big cage and that is a disadvantage, Cody Stamann's a very cerebral fighter, and he has lost to a couple guys recently that he can't bully. So even though they are a little bit older, even though they are getting up there, guys maybe that you wouldn't be very impressed with losing to recently, those are the kinds of fighters that give him trouble because he can't just overpower them physically. He can overpower Said Nurmagomedov. So here I am talking myself into a Cody Stamann bet on the eve of UFC Vegas 270. He's currently about plus 165, plus 170. This one's stayed in that range and been bouncing back and forth basically all week. Have not bet it yet, but don't be shocked if I end up on Cody Stamann by fight time. Michel Peja taking on Andre Fialho. Peja came in at 170 on the dot. Fialho 169 and a half. Pardon me, 169 and a half. Got the hiccups, came out of nowhere apparently. Michel, threw myself off now. I can't think. Michel Peja came in wooing and flexing and jumped up there and threw his arms up before they read the weight off. Like he's a fun guy. I'll be honest. I like the energy. I enjoy what he brings to the table. But he is a Brazilian balloon. He looked absolutely sucked out on the scales today. Very Jose Aldo-esque. He will blow up by fight time. We've got Andre Fialho, big, confident flex. This guy was stone cold. And another one, just like Pete, he is thick. We talk about his power. He's also got that broad shoulders, that big back that we like to mention when these guys have big punching power. When they face off, Michel Peja was taller and longer, but he seems a decent bit leaner than we're used to seeing him. He didn't blow up quite as much as I expected him to. And again, Andre's just the much wider man here. This is going to be a good fight. I did take the underdog here in this spot. Michel is the kind of fighter that he does weird stuff. He's hittable, and because you can never really bank on him to follow a good, solid game plan, I'm going to take the power puncher, the guy who's underrated, coming in here, surprising everybody, looking for the upset. I do have a bet on Fialho here in this spot. Co-main event time, Brandon Moreno taking on Davison Figueiredo. Both men came in at 124, surprisingly enough. Both guys came in 1 pound under. Seemed like Davison wanted to make a statement. I think Moreno just doing what he does. It's not a super tough cut for him. Moreno was first to the scale, ran to the scale, full of energy, this guy, always, every time. And you know what? Davison Figueiredo was the second man to the scale as well. Like I said, he was looking to make some kind of a statement today. He was absolutely shredded, but a decent bit sucked out. His eyes were sunk in, but he had so much energy, more energy than we ever see him on the scales. He moved extremely well. He was talking shit at the presser. I mean, I'm not worried about Davison Figueiredo and his weight cut whatsoever. In Henry Cejudo, we trust. This is going to be one heck of a fun fight. Figgy went full Conor McGregor on the stage, though, when they faced off. He was trying to punk Brandon Moreno, flipping him off, trying to get close to him, trying to make him flinch, and Moreno didn't budge. Threw his arms up in the air like, what? And just stood there and stared him down. I love Brandon Moreno. He's already been in the cage twice with this man, took his best punch both times, beat him very impressively the second time. Brendan is not scared of this man, and you can tell that by his demeanor. I've got the over 3.5 in this spot. I am rooting for Brandon Moreno to keep that belt, but I can definitely recognize the value on Davison Figueiredo, especially coming from the Fight Ready camp like he has, looking as good as he did on the scales. But I definitely think that Figueiredo is losing the mental game, because you can tell he is trying. He is trying so hard to get into Brandon Moreno's head. He is putting overtime effort into winning the mental battle here, and Brandon Moreno is having none of it. The man is a stone cold killer up there. And you know what? Not even a stone cold killer, because he's not a killer until he gets in the cage. He's just a kid up there having fun. He's a goofball. None of this is getting to Brandon Moreno whatsoever. And that's a mental edge that you got to think, when the bully tries to bully and it doesn't pan out, that usually tends to backfire. I feel like Brandon Moreno, when he takes one or two of Davison's big punches on Saturday, you got to wonder where that confidence goes. I tried to bully this guy. I tried to punk this guy. I tried to make him flinch. Now at least I get to hit him. Oh shit, that didn't work either. Damn it. Like, now what? So I think Brandon Moreno is really going to have a lot of success in the mental game without even trying against Davison Figueiredo tomorrow. It's going to be a great fight. Main event time. Francis Ngannou taking on Cyril Gane. Francis came in at heavyweights. 257. Cyril Gane came in at 247. So 10 pounds difference here. Francis, the heavier man. He looked fantastic. He looked leaner. Francis definitely looks like he is not quite as puffy, not quite as much muscle on him. And he came in for his last two fights over 260 pounds. So he definitely came in a little bit lighter on purpose for this one. Not so light that it would take away from his power, but you can tell he definitely emphasized some cardio for this fight. Francis knows what's up. He's not a dumb man. Cyril Gane, man mountain. Holy crap, this guy, I don't know how you have a physique like that. As big as he is, and coming in 10 pounds lighter than Francis, he looks like he's got more muscle on him. He just has a ridiculous body. Calm and quiet, no issues whatsoever for him. And both these guys, when they went for the face-off, there was just a lot of very calm exchanges of conversation. Even at like the presser, when they got heated, like it wasn't even that bad. They were both very polite. They were both very apologetic when they said something that was misconstrued or taken the wrong way. Like, this is a very interesting situation. You can feel the confidence emanating off of both of these men. This is a fight where I honestly think you just got to take the dog. Like, regardless of who it is, I think you just have to take whoever is the underdog here, because this is the definition of a coin flip fight. Francis Ngannou has that fight ending power that can stop anybody at any time, and we've never really seen that not work on anybody. He's been able to knock everybody out if he decides to go out there and throw. And humble Ngannou on a mission has been somebody that no one's been able to touch. So the fact that he's coming in here, knows what he's up against, he's not overly emotional or anything like that. I am fine backing Francis Ngannou at this point. I got plus 130. I'm in on him. It does look like the money is starting to come back in on Francis. He's down to about plus 125 market wide. Cyril Gane, the favorite. I think it's disrespectful to have the sitting champion be the underdog. Again, champion versus interim champion situation. It's a little sketchy. You could kind of go either way with it, but I understand Cyril is maybe the more technical fighter, but all it takes from Francis is one. So I love loading up here on the dog. It's only a 1-unit play. It's like my smallest play on the card, surprisingly enough, because, you know, Cyril Gane's not exactly a guy that I want to get in front of, but hey, when are you ever going to get plus money on Francis Ngannou? I got to ride this opportunity. So there you go, folks. That is the Undefeated post-weigh-in show. We got some picks in. We got a couple of spots that may turn into picks by tomorrow. Keep an eye out on my Twitter, at DieHardMMAPod, if you feel like seeing my official picks and rocking with me. Good luck to you on all your degenerate gambling action. And let's have a damn good first pay-per-view of 2022. Good luck, everybody. Let's roll.